All right, today I have Patty Palmer, and I just want to welcome you to the Accidental Artist free online event. And I am so happy to have her. Just a little bit about her, and before she tells you about her, I have actually been stalking her online for about 8 years now through her blog, Deep Space Sparkle. And she, since I've been an art teacher for the past 8 years, she has helped me so many times. Anytime I was stuck, anytime I didn't know what to do that day for the kids or was preparing things, I would always go to this blog. And so I am so honored she's here today, and I'm just so excited she's a part of this. So I just want to welcome you, Patty, and just if you could tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Thank you so much, Heidi. It's so nice to hear you. We were talking a little bit before the show, and you had mentioned that you have been following my blog, and it's just such an honor to hear that, from a real person point of view, because when you're working on a blog, you really just work in a little bit of a bubble, and you don't realize the impact that you're having. And I feel the same way about thousands of other bloggers who I emulate and follow and stuff too. So I got to know where you're coming from. And I've been doing this for a while, since I always kind of forget when I started, because it was a little bit muddled at first. It was just like, I'll blog here and there. And I kind of combined blogs and had a school blog. So I think it was around 2009 that I started to think, the blog platform is such an easy platform for me to share art with my students' parents, and just like through the school community. And that's how it all started. And the funny thing is that, making a blog, it was just kind of getting really new at that point, bloggers, putting their own content online, and it wasn't difficult to do. And so people would start to look, like art teachers would start to look for more and more resources online. And I just happened to pop up because I was doing the same thing. And that's really just how it started. And art teachers really encouraged me to keep on sharing. And so here I am.
Yeah,
6 years later, or 7.
That's amazing. I know it feels like I have seen your website since I started. It just feels like, and I don't even know how, I don't know if another teacher told me about it or what, but yeah, it got me hooked. I mean, I still use it sometimes when I'm thinking, oh, let me do something. My daughter's name is Pixie, and I'm like, oh, let me do something.
What's your daughter's name?
Pixie.
Pixie?
Yeah. Well, I was obsessed with Tinkerbell, so there's nothing like family or anything, sentimental. I was just
that
obsessed.
That is the cutest name
Thank you.
possible.
Well, yeah, she's exactly what you think a pixie would be. And she, sometimes when I'm looking for stuff, for us to do together too. So it's a resource not only for teachers, but for parents.
Yeah, it is. And I'm moving more towards that direction, making my projects not just for a classroom teacher or an art teacher, but so that a parent can actually sit down with their kids. And I have a lot of, grandparents, grandmas who are doing art with their kids on Saturday afternoons, or grandchildren.
Yeah.
And, they're using my site too. And that's just such a huge honor to be able to take a little journey with those folks who want to do art with kids, because that's all I ever wanted to do as a kid, just do art as much as I could.
Yeah, that's so good. Oh, I'm excited to see what's coming next on your blog.
Yeah.
So
you never really know.
So, Patty, how did you become an artist?
I think there's some kids who are just born to create, and that was me. I love to draw from not such an early age. I say I remember in 5th grade being in math class and just going, okay, I'm checking out here. I'm going to start to draw. And I would draw corners of all the math worksheets and, turn my 8s into little people. And
I'm with you.
So I think from the time I was 10, I probably drew every day until my first child was born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I always was drawn to illustrations in a very narrow focus. I was obsessed with drawing figure skaters and gymnasts. And
did you do that? Were you a gymnast or?
I loved gymnastics, and I did gymnastics. I wasn't very good, but I follow the gymnastic world. I mean, everything I could get my hands on. I was like the biggest fan of gymnastics. I still kind of am. I mean, I still do. If I had to draw something right now, I'd probably draw a gymnast.
Really?
And then that kind of, the actual process of drawing the human form in action, I used to do a lot of tracing and, Nadia Comaneci and, just kind of get all of her muscle tone. And that led me into drawing figures all the time, which led me into doing fashion illustration, which is what I went to school for. So it kind of just evolved.
That's so cool. Did you find that, did you always do drawing with fashion illustration, or did they have the computer stuff going?
No, I'm showing my age now. No, we didn't computer stuff.
So it was all drawing. And so I'm sure you learned, the human form so well with that.
I did. I really did learn. And by the time I was in fashion illustration, drawing the female form and all the muscles and the bones, I was really pretty good at. I still am pretty good at that. It's really the only thing I do well, other than I'm kind of like a kid's artist. When I'm working with different mediums and experimenting with projects to do with the kids, I kind of feel like I'm the kid, because I think the way the kids think in terms of using products and mediums for the first time. Mm-hmm. And what can I do with them? Because I'm not a really refined artist. I can do watercolor painting and I can work with acrylics, but I haven't practiced it like a working artist would. I'm really in the kids' world trenches, and I like to paint colorful owls, and I like to do Eric Carle work. I'm like a total kid when it comes to being an artist right now.
Well, and that's why I'm so glad you're on this online event, is because, this event is for, people too that maybe have never drawn since they were little, or maybe they loved it and they wanted to pick it back up. And I want to spread to the world that, art can enrich everyone, not just people who are artists, or not people that are just really serious artists, so that's perfect. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because people have artist, really, it's a narrow focus of it's a narrow definition of what that means to be an artist. And for me, being an artist is to live a creative life and to create something. And art, I have 2 boys and a girl, and not one of them is really that artistic. Mm-hmm. My daughter is, but she has so many other activities and events that she does that art is such a backseat. But she has that in her, and I know that will come out at some point during her life. And even my oldest son, who's like an aerospace engineer, wow. He's the most creative thinker and writer, and he likes to put pen to paper a lot too. So it can come out at different times in your life. And my mother, who's 75, she picked up a paintbrush at 70, and now she paints every day. It's amazing what she produces. It's kind of impressive because she starts a painting and she finishes it, which is the hardest thing to do when you're an artist.
Okay, so Patty, what is your favorite thing to do in the art world? Like, I know as artists we can choose everything, which is amazing. But if you had to choose one thing, what would it be?
Well, that changes depending on what stage of life you're at and where you are on your journey. Right now, my favorite thing to do is to create art for kids, like figure out how kids learn a technique and to create a project that they can relate to in subject matter, they can, identify with, and it's exciting, and to use, cool materials that they may never have used before. So that's the most exciting thing in my art world right now. Although I have to say, on a personal level, in terms of working, I'm really getting into Illustrator and learning how to draw with my stylus pen. And I'm so bad at it, but I'm getting better. And I love that process of learning. And that, of course, is art too, just how you arrange everything. And learning technology is pretty cool. I do look forward to different artistic paths later on. Like, I can't wait to work with acrylics and do these huge paintings. And it's just I'm not ready for that right now. Everything takes its, I do things in chunks. Like this is my, watercolor stage and fashion stage. And then my teaching art stage. And I'm pretty sure I'll have another stage. I went through a quilting stage where I did all hand applique quilts. And I just was like obsessed with it. And I did it until I said, yeah, this is good. And then I moved on to something else.
So it's like once you master it, you go to the next thing.
Yeah, master's not quite the word I would use. Once my interest level has gone, like, that was really fun. Now I want to try something new. Because I think with a lot of creative people, we have a tendency, we want to try everything. And I don't quite have the discipline it takes to stick with one particular thing. I was just listening to a podcast yesterday, and it was about a lady who does a painting every day.
Wow.
Including holidays, whether she's on a trip, and she gets up every morning at 5 a.m. and she has all of her stuff ready and she paints a picture a day. I don't think I could do that. I might be able to paint a picture once a year. It's amazing.
Wow. But I wish I had you over for a day, because acrylic's what I love. That's my favorite thing to do is acrylic. Yeah. And once you get the hang of it, it is so... I don't know. It's just so freeing. I don't know. Something about it, just throwing that paint on the canvas. I don't know. I think you would love it.
Yeah, I know I would, because I've done quite a few art projects with my kids with it, and my students, and we're like, yeah, this is fun. I love this. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Patty, do you have like a favorite book or a favorite quote you want to share with our audience?
Yeah. I don't have that pulled up right now. You might want to.
I think I have it. Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Do you want me to read the one that you sent?
Yeah, and then also re-ask that question.
Okay. Say that again. Okay, so this one, she put on here. Let's see. Okay, so yes, I pretty much live through the lens of this quote. There is a vitality, a life force, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And there is only one of you in all time. This expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium and be lost. The world would not have it.
Yeah, Martha Graham. I love that quote because it basically sets my intention every time I'm step into a classroom. Not just for myself, but for my students. And when you're teaching 400 children, you have to remember that every little voice is unique and they're going to express it in a different way. And even though we intuitively know that and we say it over and over, we give it lots of lip service that we are all individual, there's always these overriding principles of just living in a contemporary life that we have these pressures to live up to a certain ideal. And it's really hard to drill down and remember that everyone does have their own voice, and it's not up to you to stop that. You have to let that out. And I think the same way with art teachers. There's always these debates on the best way to teach art, and is it this method or is it this method? And I always come back to that quote saying, you're going to teach art the way you're meant to teach art. And your voice will come through and your intentions will resonate with the kids in the way that you were meant to teach it. So that quote, my writing teacher read that quote when I was in this other phase of my life when I was trying to write a book.
Hey, I can come back.
I'm very obsessed with writing fiction. And so she read this quote one day during our workshop. And I just loved it, and I kind of put it on my wall, and I had it there for a dozen years.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I have a Marianne Williamson quote on my wall, the one about let your light shine, and, all of the stuff about when you do, you let others shine theirs too. And I painted it on some old wood and have it in my dining room and, my kitchen area. So every day it reminds me, go out there and do your best.
And it's the same thing. All of these themes are the same, that we have a gift and everyone has it. And it can change over time. Right. Your gift might be different one decade to the next, but it's your job to let it go and to bring it, to give it to service to others.
Right. Yeah. Did you want me to read the other one that's right under it?
No, that's the same one. It's a really long quote.
Oh, okay.
And, the meat of it is in that first paragraph. So.
Okay, good. All right. So, Patty, who inspires you?
Well, I think everyone does. There's not one person. Well, okay, other than Oprah, who I love because she introduces me to people I never would know about, and creative people, thinkers, amazing philosophers, spiritual leaders. I love listening to who she has on deck. Like, what person is she going to introduce me to? But other than that, I find creative people and people who are living a happy, fulfilling, purpose-filled life. Those are people who inspire me. And it could be your neighbor or my neighbor. It could be a fellow teacher. It could be a kid. It could just be anybody.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah, I liked how you had written the curious, if they live curious lives. I like that.
Yeah, people who are curious about life, that ask the questions, that seek out adventures, whether it's not so much typical adventures like going mountain climbing, but just whatever adventure means to you, getting outside of your comfort zone and exploring and seeing what's out there. I love living a curious life. That's why I try so many things. Because there's just so much out there, and you don't know when your days are done.
Right. You gotta get on it.
Live like you're dying. Who wrote that song? It was a country and western song.
Tim McGraw, I think. Wasn't it Tim McGraw?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a country girl. So how has teaching art and teaching children in particular helped you succeed as an artist? And I know you don't call yourself an artist, but we all know the truth. You are. We all have our art side in our own way. So how do you think that has helped you succeed in art?
Well, I think it's kind of a different... Teaching art to kids kind of opened up a whole world of possibilities for me in ways I never really expected when I signed on to teach my first class. I was so happy to have this job as an art teacher because I stayed home with my children for 11 years. And then when my youngest went to kindergarten, I wanted to stop volunteering and actually kind of get paid.
Right.
And so I worked so heavily within the school system, in volunteer capacities, that everyone knew me. And so when a position for an art teacher came up, they, hired me. And it wasn't too difficult to get the job. But I hadn't taught before. So it was, a new experience for me. So when I taught, I loved the exploration of learning. Remember how I said before how I'm kind of learning along with the kids? Mm-hmm. I did. I learned about artists that I never even studied in art school. People like James Rizzi and Romero Brito, like all these contemporary artists that kind of made their mark, they weren't actually dead.
Right.
And just through the process of coming up with new art lessons, you investigate new artists and new people who have made an impact in our lifetime. Mm-hmm. And so that opened up a whole world of, wow, there's just so many amazing people. So that was one thing that, expanded my view of art. Because, in college, you only learn about, the masters. And there's a whole other world of art. And then the other thing is that when I evolved into the online world, I wasn't a technical person. And so it opened up this whole world of online learning and learning how to use Photoshop and Illustrator and, how to code a few simple things on the site. And learning all of those things, super fun. And I really feel that's incredibly creative. Designing my logos and designing my packages that I would sell to teachers. Super fun stuff. That all happened because I accepted a job teaching art for kids. or in the school system, at 9 hours a week. I mean, it all kind of stems from there.
Wow, that's so cool how one path can take you
It
so
just
many
can.
open up
You
so
never
many
know.
doors. So do you believe, Patty, that art can enrich anyone's life? Or, like, how do you feel about that statement?
I think art does enrich everyone's life, whether you know it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Art is the beauty that we see around us. It's through media, movies, books, when you're walking down the street, window displays. Art is everywhere. It's not just in the classroom painting or,
Right.
In your studio. Art is the life force, I think. And everyone does. People are happy. It's no coincidence when people retire from their work, they start to paint and draw and do something artistic, because I think it's innate in all of us, and we all need that expression.
Right.
So yeah, and anyone can do art. Not everyone's interested. Like my husband, he's not interested. I can't see really, him. That's not going to happen. But he doesn't need that. He has other things. But I think from
his own talents.
I think coding, that's really a creative process for him. And that can be very creative in like an engineering type of way.
Right. Yeah. Well, we all have our paths, there's different things. And I think so much that sometimes people think, oh, art is this, drawing this, or I can't draw a stick figure, I can't do this, and I
hear that so much.
Yeah, me too.
I know.
Me too. But then they can go sing and blow the house away, and I'm like, that's art. You're not seeing. There's so many. It's a way to be creative. So
it's what you do. You teach adults, how to compose a painting. Mm-hmm. That is so empowering for adults. My hairdresser and I had this conversation just the other day, seriously, about these art retail stores coming up that you can go into and paint and have a glass of wine. And she had just recently been to this kind of class, and she never considered herself an artist. I'm like, heard that one before. And she just was blown away with what she was able to create. And she was just so like, oh, I learned how to mix colors and how to mix red and green to make brown, and who thought, and she has her painting in her living room, and she was so darn proud.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool to see. I know every time I teach a painting class like that, I hear that. I've never done this before. And I'm like, just wait, talk to me at the end. Let me know what you feel at the end. And I get it every time. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this. And I'm like, see, you got it in you. You can do it. You just sometimes need your hand held a little bit at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and kids are the same way. They don't really come into the art class and say, I can't do that, because they're pretty sure at this point when they come into my art class and they see something that they're going to be doing, they're pretty excited because they know they're going to be able to do it by the end of the class. So
yeah, that's cool. So what advice would you give someone who has never done art before on how to start? Like, what would you say to them?
Well, for one thing, don't put pressure on yourself. Don't have these expectations that it's about the end result. And I know we've heard this before, but it really is about the process. And especially at first, and you really have no right. It's like going out to play a game of golf and have this expectation that you're going to get, play, get all these pars and bogeys, or for me anyways.
Oh my gosh.
And you really kind of just have to give yourself some grace and say, you just want to go out there and sightsee and enjoy the day and just enjoy the whole activity of playing golf. And it's the same with art. No matter what type of art you're doing, just go into it with more of an open mind and a gentle attitude of, let's just see what this can bring. And that's what I told my mother when she wanted to start doing something. She was just a little bored. I said, you know what? Buy some acrylic paints. She had started with watercolor, and watercolors tend to be a little bit more precise. You have to kind of have a drawing behind them, and they're a little bit less forgiving.
Right.
But acrylic paints are very forgiving, and you can kind of just paint over them, and they dry quickly, and you can kind of paint over them again and mix.
Yeah.
I said, just take some acrylics and just put something on a piece of paper. It doesn't have to look like anything, and just kind of get the feel for what a brush feels like in your hand and how it feels to paint something. There's no better feeling. It's such a beautiful feeling knowing that the color that you see is because of your hand and that brush and that paint. It's an addictive thing. So just go easy, go slow, find something you like. Don't narrow down your choices. There's all sorts of ways to be creative.
Yeah, and that's so true. And I love what you had wrote to me. You said art is the shortcut to happiness. I totally believe that.
Yeah, I
That
think
was
so
great.
too.
Yeah, you need to write that as a quote and put it with your stuff or something. It's so good.
Thanks. Yeah, I feel that with the kids. That
Mhm.
once they start creating, sometimes they'll come into the class with their little shoulders up. Maybe they had to do math.
All tense.
And then all of a sudden you see them working and their little tongues start to hang out. And then their shoulders relax, and you can just tell that they're in the zone. And then when I have to ring like the cleanup bell, it's just like revolt. Like there's no one wants to stop. Then I have to turn into the mean teacher. Hurry up.
Yeah.
Class is coming.
Oh no, I was teaching my high schoolers before this interview, and at one point it went totally silent, and I was like, I kind of like looked up. I was getting some stuff ready for an art show, and I kind of looked up, and I'm like, I'm not messing this up. I'm not gonna say a word. I'm just gonna let it keep being silent while
No. Yeah, sometimes the magic happens. You're like, ooh.
Yeah, let's let that one keep going. So anyway, do you have some people are offering kind of like a free gift? Do you have something maybe on your website you want to offer to our viewers?
Yeah, I have so many freebies that I'll direct you to. And there's lots of fun ones like how to mix paint colors. Like people sometimes don't know how to mix paint colors. And I have these little handy, handouts colored handouts that you can kind of follow along and maybe do your own experiment. But I'll, in your notes, you can give the link that I'm going to give you, and I'll have a bunch of links for your listeners.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I'll make sure to put the little link to it so they can go straight to it. So great. Well, it's been so much fun. I love you, Patty. I'm so glad you decided to do this, and thank you so much for all your help over the years with lesson plans and direction and inspiration. So thank you.
Heidi, you're a delight too. Thank you so much. We'll have to get together.
Yes, that would be so fun. Spend like a whole 3 or 4 days just doing art stuff and trading stories. That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. It would be. We need to put that on our calendar.
I know, right? Well, thank you so much, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.